we're talking about bodybuilding. And my oldest friend in the world happens to be one of the top bodybuilders in the world. Everybody meet Troy Alves.
Thank you, Mike.
And we've been friends since we were next door neighbors when we were 7 years old.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and just so happens he's been in how many Mr. Olympias?
8 Mr. Olympias, and the top placing was tied for 7th in the world.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Troy not only is my oldest friend, but he's taught me a lot in as far as bodybuilding. I've followed his career throughout. I mean, we go way back. And wait till I get to tell you about the story of when we both started karate together.
Yes,
he
sir.
actually started before me.
Yes.
And I actually had to learn from him and his brother first.
I hold that on.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
absolutely, absolutely. He and his brother were they were taking karate lessons, but my mother wouldn't let me take it, right? But I used to go with them to his karate class.
Yes, Rex Lee.
Yes, Rex Lee back in those days. And so I would watch their class, and we'd get home and we'd practice, and I would practice so much that I got a little bit ahead of he and his brother.
Yes.
Yeah, because I would watch the advanced class, and then one time they were training, and they came to me because I kind of knew all the other stuff, and Rex Lee asked, "Well, why are you going to ask that kid?" and you said you were like, "Well, he knows."
He knows a bit.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so basically, Rex said, "Well, how does he know it?" And basically, I said, "Well, he said, who taught you?" I said, "Well, you did. I was watching." So he gave me a little test, and from that point on, I was
Passed us.
Yeah,
Basically, he passed us.
Well, he gave me free lessons.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was all due to this guy that I.
Got it started.
Yeah,
So I feel proud that we're the ones that started before him. So
Yeah.
needless to say, he's the champ of all champs now. But I got something I can hold over his head that you only started because of me.
Right. But he made his mark in bodybuilding. I mean, we were. I mean, I know I popped back up on you guys when I was well, he moved away. You guys moved away when?
When I was 9 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, he moved back to Arizona, and I popped back up on them like when I was 15. I've been on my own since I was 14. When I was 15, I took a Greyhound across country and popped up on their doorstep because I had his address, and so you could
Shocked, by all means, shocked. And this the thought of Michael was always an independent man anyway, but the fact that he would just get on a Greyhound bus and travel across country by himself, and then just had an address and just show up in Arizona, we all were just looking like, Michael? We just couldn't believe that he acted like it was no big deal, like it was just spare of the moment, like, hi, everybody. And so needless to say, we were shocked. And that was our comeback story from 7 years, basically, from the last time we had seen each other. And we got to get reacquainted and went and did some kind of crazy stuff in Arizona where you can tell a story about our little you did baseball thing where you came to my game.
Yeah, well, you had just started. I went with you to the gym one time when you were playing baseball for your high school.
Yes, sir.
And I just remembered this. I was showing you how to lift weights.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm dead serious because I was always a lot bigger.
You're a lot bigger.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay. You grew when?
I didn't start growing till, you're right, I just was sophomore years when I grew. So I was a little tiny tot all the way up to freshman, sophomore. So probably my sophomore, junior year.
Right. I went with you to the weight room, and I was kind of helping you and showing you how to bench press.
Yes.
Only like, 3-4 years later, you couldn't recognize this dude. This dude dwarfed me as far as muscle. It was ridiculous. It was like your genetics was like insane. One thing I remember is like even when you were a little kid, we used to always joke and say if somebody cut you, you bleed to death
yes.
because you'd see all his veins was just on the outside of his body. He was skinny, like you said, like you were 4'11" until high school.
Yes, sir. Freshman in high school, 4'11", 100 pounds.
Right, and then grew massively. I think, I don't know, it must have been something about how that, because you would stay vascular throughout your bodybuilding career, and you didn't really need to diet very much.
No, that's God's gift right there, because my skin was always paper thin. Like, that was one thing people admired about me, that it's superficial. And then in the bodybuilding world, that's what you trying to create to get on stage, is try to get the thinnest skin possible so you can see the definition and the detail of the muscle and the fibers. So I was fortunate and blessed to have that from an early age. Never really had to work for it, so don't get mad at me. But that's his fault. But anyway, so I was fortunate in that regard, that I always had thin skin, and that was my body. I do recall that he did show me weights. I just think about where I'm at today, so I forget about where I began.
Right. I just remember. I'm so glad I rememred that.
So you got one up on me right there.
Yeah. You taught me karate, and I taught you some weights. But I mean, but it's kind of a funny switch. But of course, what he did with the bodybuilding and what I did with it's a whole different ball game. But yeah, we kind of switched past there. But from day one, Troy's been just my biggest influence with bodybuilding and learning the science of it, because Troy really is the true essence of a bodybuilder. He sculpted himself, and you look at the picture. I guess we could flash up the picture. A 10-year difference between your quality when you were 37 and then the picture at 47.
Yes, sir.
And just the way you never sold out to just getting bulky for bulky's sake. There was a time in bodybuilding where they were just celebrating the freak, and no longer were
aesthetics.
Yeah, aesthetics was not,
disappeared.
Started, and then Arnold actually has been speaking a lot about, Arnold Schwarzenegger has been speaking against this a lot lately. He's saying that because back in Arnold's day, there was Frank Zane, there were Arnold, there was Serge Nubret.
All the classic.
Both
Buchanan.
of our, that was our hero.
Yes, sir.
But like, when you want to sculpt the muscle, you want to have a smaller waist and big shoulders and
big round chest, sweeping quads. That's the art of bodybuilding. And from an early age, I looked at some of the magazines, and I just looked at the pure aesthetics and like the Greek sculpture of what the physique is supposed to be about. I never got caught up in like, let me see how big I can get. And Mike was always like that too. We always looked at trying to be as pretty a physique as possible. So I always like to try to see if I can make my waist as small as it could be. I want to be an illusionist, and that's what bodybuilding is. It's all about illusion. So I want to be the smaller the waist, the wider the shoulders, the smaller the joints, the illusion that you create. So I could stand next to a guy that can outweigh me by 40, 50 pounds, and then you see me, when we first stand there, he's like, whoa, he's way bigger. But then when you see me pose, my body comes alive, because of the illusion factor, the round muscle bellies, the small joints, and the big bulky guy, what you see is what you get. As soon as he hits the shot, nothing changes. So I learned at an early age that that's the art of bodybuilding. That's what I wanted to create, and that's what I became known for, is my aesthetics and just the modern day Frank Zane is what I was known as.
And one way is, a lot of the bodybuilders that you see in competitions, they look like that on the day of the competition. But a week later, they look nothing like that. And a lot of it is due to other stuff we won't get into. Of course, some of the other stuff. But Troy would look the same way weeks, months, before, after. He looked the same way. It's because he didn't take his body to some kind of crazy place where he's just trying to be just massive and competing against, even though those guys, they were rewarding him, they were giving him the first prizes, but he held out for the quality of the true art of bodybuilding.
Yes, sir.
And that's why you're one of the most respected bodybuilders ever.
I'll take this great compliment. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But that's the truth. That's the truth. Nobody could deny that. It doesn't matter if the business goes one direction. We know what true bodybuilding is. And one of the things that brings us, full circle to what we're talking about is you don't get there without having the respect for the technique. The proper technique is what, one of the reasons why I'm even doing this. Just like with martial arts, there's a technique to things. There's, a lot of people, we may get into it for our various reasons. It could be to make us more secure. Maybe we want to, I don't know. We have a lot of different reasons why we're doing stuff. But to not be a slave to your ego and do it for the right reasons.
Well said.
And so with bodybuilding, Troy would, a lot of times when I'm being in front of the camera, I'd train with Troy. Sometimes I'd go to Arizona and he'd come out here, and we really refined the techniques. And since he was a bodybuilder, I know with common sense, if I'm going to shape my body, I'm going to listen to him because that's his
forte.
Yeah, that's his forte. That's his business. And I would learn so much training with you. You would sometimes. He would have all major 4 champions living in your house.
Yes, sir.
Getting ready for the Olympia together.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes,
and I would be a fly on the wall. I trained with them, and I learned all these intricate things of how to be effective in the gym with technique and everything. But yeah, it's really one thing that they all had was technique, and because the difference between a half inch on your rear delt or just filling out a
peak
muscle
of the bicep or something like that,
or a muscle belly to work on one specific part, that's an art.
Yes.
And so you don't get there without really knowing the art of it and the technique.
You have to approach bodybuilding just as it is. That's what you're building your body. And the way I looked at it was more of a silhouette. When you look at your physique, do I just want you go based on your genetic makeup too. So some people might be not as genetically gifted as us with the small wrist and the rounder muscle belly. So, but you have to live with your makeup as regardless. It's still about bodybuilding. So, what I always try to envision is where my weakness and my strengths were, how I can make my weaknesses and to balance out my strengths and not exceed my strengths to make them even more over the top from where my weaknesses were. So a lot of people get caught up with big arms. They're like, whoa, I got big arms. So they keep pressing those arms. They just keep going, and their arms start to outdo the rest of their body, even though the weaker body part is catching up, but it still throws their body off because they keep pushing that other part, and not the ego, like you talked about, gets the best of them, and they won't settle down to say, let me balance all this out before I try to exceed that, because that's my gift. And that's what I always approach, because I was one of those genetic guys where my arms grew really fast and they grew really easy. But at the same time, I noticed early in my career, I was like, dang, my biceps are getting really big, but my triceps are not quite there. So what I did was just I'd still work my biceps, but I put more time into my triceps. I wanted that illusion and that balance to my physique. And that's how people, and I try to teach, is approaching that way, is to balance out the little small details that you can make you look like you gain 10 pounds when you only gain 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds. But if you put it in the right places, that what we talked about at the beginning is illusion. That illusion factor comes out and it stands out.
Absolutely.
That's the art.
I always say, if you have big arms, all that means is the rest of your body isn't in comparison to it. Okay, if you have a big head, that means the rest of your body looks small in comparison. That's really what it comes down to. So you got to build the rest of your body to catch up with your head.
All them traps, good everything.
Yeah,
else.
well, but it's all that illusion that he's talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes,
but
sir.
yeah, but that's exactly right. And myself, I never wanted to. Against my bodybuilding friends' best wishes, they always wanted me to really bodybuild, and I'm like, no.
And he's a genetic freak.
No.
Mike could have done it easy.
No, yeah, and for me, being an actor, I was already on the large side, so I never ever wanted to get any bigger. And these guys would go, "Oh, come on, man! I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna try. I'm not trying to get like you guys. I gotta jump, move, and run, punch, and all that other stuff." So for me, even though I was a natural gainer, my whole thing was to trim down, trim down, trim down. Do the quality, try to, keep certain muscle bellies there, but I'm always trying to be lighter. So for me, I was always like a fighter getting ready for a fight.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm always trying to lean down.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, there was one role that it was like kind of like a role that I could get big for.
Yes.
And when I did that, and I said, okay, I'll work out with you.
That. I love that.
But even big for me is like I got up to 247.
Yes.
But that was too damn big for me. I never wanted.
But it looked good on camera, and
God.
it looked good in person. But he just felt heavy. I remember complaining about, like, I just feel like I can't move. I'm slow now and everything. He just complained about it. But for us as fans, that's a great looking physique, because that's kind of what we all saw that he could do, how big he could actually get. He could even got bigger too. He could have got up to 260 with no problem, still had abs and still been in great shape. But he never liked that feeling of being heavy and not being able to have the quickness.
Yeah.
Unlike me, I love that feeling of just being as big as possible and sluggish as possible with aesthetics, though. With aesthetics.
Man, I could not. I realized I could not touch my own shoulder, and I got this tense part of my neck, and I couldn't touch it because I was doing this. I can't live that way. But for somebody my height, I'm 6'1.5", 6'2". Maybe I shrank a bit. I don't know. But for me to step on a stage to bodybuild, you realize I'd have to be 300 pounds.
Yeah.
I'd have to be 300 lean. I mean, Ronnie Coleman he's 5'11".
Yes.
And he was 300 pounds. Imagine somebody my height. So, no, that's me and a 12-year-old. So I am not going to gain that much weight for anything. But so just so you guys can kind of figure out how the differences are, because I know people think that I'm a lot bigger because it's that illusion he's talking about. I appear sometimes on screen when I lose weight, I look like I'm
even bigger,
260 or whatever.
Yes.
And it just so happens that role that I got up to 247. We never shot that movie, so no. And it took me about 6 months to lose that damn weight. It took me 6 months to get down to 235. No, that was torture. But yeah, man. I real quick, I want you to cover a bit of the technique. Okay, like what you were telling Eddie before.
Yeah.
So can you share some of that?
Well, with lifting, it is all about technique. I've been around the gyms for, I'm going to tell you my age, but I've been around the gyms for about 40 years or so.
They know my age, so they know your age.
Yeah, so about 40 years. So what I established early in my career, like without even thinking about it before I was even remotely close to a bodybuilder, I would watch people in the gym just lift the weight for sake of lifting weight. And it just didn't look right to me. I never got caught up in it, so I knew that doesn't look right. It looked like they're doing more damage than good. So I learned from an early age that I wanted to concentrate on technique. And we talked about earlier that mind-muscle connection. And when you take that and put that in the forefront of your brain, then you're going to not try to just lift weight for the sake of lifting weight. So when you connect to the muscle, as you take down, whatever it could be doing, it could be a simple thing as a dumbbell press. What I see in the gym on a regular basis is they'll take the weight from here and they'll go like this, and they'll lift the weight. Yeah, they'll feel there's some blood that's going to come in the chest, but you're not actually working your chest. You're getting more out of your shoulders than you're doing anything else. So it's just like a rotating motion, just back and forth. But the ideal way for a simple exercise like this that they make difficult is it's all about that connection. So look right here. I'm expanded already. My chest is already full. And so where do I have to go from here? This is full range right here. And watch my chest lead out. That's what it's all about. That simple move is here to here. And I don't do this when I come down and push up. I stay here and I push. So that's all chest right there. If you can establish that early on and not let your ego, because you're not going to be as strong initially with that because it's like so dynamic and you have to perform it perfectly. But if you can let that go out of your brain and just think about that connection of the muscle and you want to build, then you'll get much faster results. And the strength will eventually come to the same, if you'll exceed what these others are doing in the gym, as I did in my career.
One thing that I always borrow from you, there's something that you told me one time when you were training me. You said the mind-muscle connection. I always say that. And especially when you're using your back, when you're using muscles that you can't see, you have to really think and flex from that muscle. And as long as you can feel it, you can use it, okay?
Yes,
and I always say, well, just use the machine to help you flex harder.
There you go.
And so even when I was trying to point out that, is that a lot of people's mistake is to use their shoulders and doing this. That's why a lot of people look like that.
Yes.
And that's what I used to look like.
Yes.
And
dominate right
yeah,
here.
I used to look like this, but then for years I did back work to pull my shoulders back.
Yes, sir.
And that balanced out everything. I moved better because I was more
core
balanced.
was online.
Yeah, my core is online. And so that's one of those things that and then learning the proper technique and not just doing it from ego. Speaking of ego, okay, just really quick. I remember the first time Charles Glass trained me. And Charles trained Troy as well.
Yes, he did.
He's like the Bill Belichick of bodybuilding.
Yes, he is.
Like everybody from all over the world would train with Charles Glass.
Yes.
So I went to go train with him, and he had Gunther. Gunther was with us, and I believe it was Dexter. It was a bunch of. I was training with like top bodybuilders at Gold's Gym, so I was like, okay. And we were doing chest, and they were grabbing like these 80s and 70s. I'm going, what? I was doing like 150s each hand, so I was like, what are we doing like lightweight?
Baby weight?
Yeah, baby weight or something. I'm like, oh shoot, okay. Well, there was that ego going there. I'm like, I'm stronger than these dudes. What's up? Well, he gave me a 60. Charles gave me, 60. I'm like, 60? Like I'm appalled. But he had me do it correctly, where I'm flexing my chest each time, and I swear, I had a smirk on my face. Okay, how many you want me? Okay, so then I did up to 15. Normally I would do 10.
Yeah.
This is 15, but he made sure I did it strict, and I was like, it was something between 12 and 15 was like, that smirk just kind of
came to reality.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, okay. That next set, I was like, yo, I'm on fire.
Yes, sir.
And that smirk transferred to his face.
Yes, sir.
Then I started to really learn
what it's all about.
What it's all about. It wasn't like an ego. I was so proud of myself lifting a whole bunch of weight. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Most people in the gym are. That's how they lift. That's exactly what they. But
Yeah.
at least you're aware enough to catch that and just grasp it and move forward.
Yeah.
And develop from that point on.
Yeah, it's about what you're doing to the muscle. I used, my joints would ache a little bit. I'd get tired, but I'm not on fire. But when I learned to get put on fire with that pump,
yes, sir. Lights out. Yep.
Yeah, lights out. That's when everything changed. I actually had to slow up because my muscle
started growing so fast.
Yeah, my response to my muscle really hit in. And that's about being with people who really know what they're doing. They make a living doing what they're doing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A lot of personal trainers make a living selling memberships and babysitting folks. Not to be shitting on them, but
sir.
But this is just the truth. Okay, a lot of personal trainers, they come from, hey, my good friend, Bob Goldman, he started the whole industry of personal training. But he's not responsible to where it's gone now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's a gig for a lot of people, and bless them. But the gig for bodybuilders is learning how to build their body. It's about muscle, and what I'm doing, I'm spending my time doing this. I'm not coming from some kind of bullshit place. This is just real.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not going to waste my time or your time. So I'm going to speak about what's real, and I got real people to do that with me.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me and talk about it because if we can get that out to everybody to learn to do things the right way and just take the ego out of it. If anybody was like in our position, we could have an ego, but it's like, but we let that stuff go and we know who we are as people and we just concentrate on what we're trying to achieve and don't let any of the so-called word like I'm a top bodybuilder, that never affected my brain. I still stayed true to where I am as you are. That's why I have so much respect. And we've been friends for so long because we're real people.
Yeah,
and we want you to understand and do it the correct way as we have done to get our bodies in the places we are in our lives right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe because we started out in the martial arts and it's about the tradition
Discipline,
about it
yeah.
is being disciplined and
That's
humble.
right, that's right.
And
Good point.
Troy's always been the most humble person. That's why you've been a leader among bodybuilders.
Thank you,
That's
brother.
That's why you've been like you're a big brother to the entire bodybuilding industry, and you have so much respect from that.
That's a great compliment. I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, I want you to basically, if there's any your email, not emails. What do you call this stuff, like social media?
Oh
type
yeah,
stuff?
yeah. Well, you could see me. You can catch me on just Troy Alves off of Instagram, and then on Facebook I'm under Troy Alves, and I have the fan page and then the regular page, and I'm looking forward to. That's why we talk about this stuff. I'm going to be doing a website where I'm going to be teaching on a regular basis the instruction of how to do every type of exercise there is. So if you want to learn how to do exercises correctly, you can always come up to my website. It will be T Alves Inc. And that will be coming on soon. You'll be able to get all that information off of my Instagram page, Troy Alves. All right.
All right. Well, thanks, brother.
Thank you,
for
Michael. Appreciate you, brother.
joining me.
Always.
All right.
Always.
And we'll get back to you guys on the flip. And thanks for joining us.